Okay. That is good. I think it's working. Okay. That is good. All right. Okay, so thank you for joining today. Let me share my screen here and give a little overview about myself, and then at least you guys can get to know who I am if you don't know me already. So this is how this is gonna work. I'm gonna go through some presentation, and then we are gonna do some hands-on learning. If you have any questions as this go on, you can put your questions in the chat, or I've also allowed the ability to just raise your hand, ask a question, and I'll be able to answer you. Okay, this is not a pre-recorded webinar or anything. I'm available, I'm live. So if you have any question, if you raise your hand, you can unmute yourself and then ask your questions. All right. So let me share my screen and then we can go through this. So let me see. Yeah, we are going to go through an introduction here. I'll talk about myself and my career in data. I'll introduce you to what Power BI is, what functionalities exist within Power BI, and I'll talk about the program that we have, a bootcamp program we have, and then we are going to do the hands-on training where we will get to build a dashboard together in Power BI, and then we are going to conclude for today. Okay, so a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Ghana. I moved to the US when I was in high school, my junior year, third year, as they would say it. But when I moved here after high school, I went to college at Virginia Tech. I got a degree in civil engineering from there. I worked as a civil engineer and mainly focusing on the project management side of things. And it's just because, as a civil engineer, I wasn't a big fan of staying out there in the field during the hot summer days and the cold winter days, especially the cold days. Somebody who's from Ghana, I couldn't just handle the cold like that. So as I did the office part of civil engineering, which was project management, like mainly building schedules for projects, cost analysis, tracking how project is performing. And that's where I discovered data analytics, because I realized that in project management, data was key in there. So at the time, my partner that I do this bootcamp with, he introduced me to data analytics. He was the first one that introduced me to data science. Okay, one time I was talking to him and he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm a data scientist." And to me at the time, I thought scientists were folks who stay out there in the lab, doing chemical stuff and doing research. But he explained to me what data scientists do. Kind of fell in love with it. It was a love at first sight. I went out there, started learning the skills, and I realized it was really for me. This was around 2019. So 2020 is when I started working in this field, doing some data analysis as well. My domain has been in project management because that's what I had a background in. So it made life easier for me. When I got into the field 2 years later, which was 2022, is when I started teaching these skills. So I have a strong passion for teaching. I was the type that in high school, I would teach people math. In college, I would teach people calculus. So when I got into this field, the best way for me to learn and retain the skills was teaching people. So I did that 2022. I did it 2023. I did it as well. To be honest, 2024, we took a break. And it's just because during that time, I used to teach these classes for free. I felt like people weren't taking it serious. So I took a break from it to go chase my money. But last year, 2024, when I actually took a break, I was getting a lot of requests from people asking about these classes because the demand for it is growing so much. So I decided that cool, I'll come back to teaching the skill. So I talked to my partner who introduced me into the field. We set up, we structured the course, and that's what we've been doing since the beginning of this year. So that's a little about me. And the next thing, data visualization process, right? So this is where I introduce Power BI and what it's capable of. So Power BI is a visualization tool, okay? Uh, what it does is it takes raw data and then it turns it into actionable insights. It turns it into visualizations that can be appealing to your eye as an end user. So an example I always make is if you go to your bank's app, right? Every time you go make transactions, you're swiping your card, you're doing all these things. You go into your bank's app and they show you a graph that shows you how you've spent your money, the categories, food, gas, clothing, where your money is going. They take all that raw transaction data you're doing, and then they turn it into that actionable insight, which is the chart that you see. Because at the end of the day, for end users, nobody really cares about seeing all the little details within the data, right? We just want to see something that is summarized, something that makes sense to the eye, something that helps us make decisions easily. So if you go out there to work for companies, that's the same things they're doing. They're saying, okay, we have all these data. Imagine walking into Walmart. Anytime you purchase something, you scan it. Walmart collects data of what is being purchased. That's how they're able to determine what their inventory, what needs to come in, what needs to go out, how much profit a store is making at different locations. A CEO, he doesn't really care about looking at going for a year and seeing the millions of transactions people made at Walmart, right? So the data analyst has to take that data and then turn it into a simple chart for the CEO to look at and make decisions based off of on the chart. So that's what Power BI is used for. And when we start developing today, you guys will understand exactly what I mean. So, I mean, data right now, it cuts across almost every industry I know. You know, these are just quick ones that I put together. Things like retail, when just like I just said, if you go to a place like Walmart, Home Depot, all of them, they hire data analysts who do visualizations for them with the goal of seeing how much revenue they're making, how much profits they're making, their customer satisfaction ratings, all of that. And that's how they're able to see what improvements they need to make within specific locations, if they need to shut certain stores down. They don't just sit there and come up with these decisions, right? They have to look at data in order to do that. Places like healthcare. Healthcare is a booming field right now in data. And healthcare, what you can do with data, tracking outbreaks, hospital ratings, uh, health trends, diagnosis. COVID happened, right? Every time you turned on your TV, we were seeing charts that were showing, people passing away in different locations, people recovering, how much people are being hospitalized, and all of that. Those data were being collected at different locations. And as a data analyst, we were creating these charts for to show on TVs, right? So that's what is behind it. Finance, huge as well. It all boils down to the money, So if you're looking at our budget versus our expenditure, if you go to the bank, right, they're tracking different transactions. Like I said, if they're looking at categories where customers are spending money, locations where customers are spending money, and they're helping you as the customer make proper financial decisions. Places like transportation, if you go to a Department of Transportation, they are building these visualizations to show different traffic patterns. It tells them how to program their traffic lights, how they need to improve transportation in different areas. Even like buses, right? They collect data, how many people are getting on this bus at these different times during the day. That's how they're able to determine that, okay, let's deploy more buses to this location. Let's deploy less here because we are not getting more people taking the bus at this particular time. So project management, which is where I work, we track our budget versus our actuals. We track how projects are doing, right? To be able to see if we need to put more resources on different projects or pull more resources out of different projects. This helps the CEOs and the directors make proper decisions for projects. And sometimes based on the data, it even goes to the extent of let's shut down this project because it's not making us any profit, right? So this whole data world is what AI and the machine learning is being built on now, but for the visualization part, we're not going to get into this. Like I said, after this, at least I hope that you can use a tool like Power BI to visualize your own budget data, right? Track your budget versus your expenses, see what you need to improve, and then you can create charts to visualize it for yourself as a personal project. So let me go to the next slide here. So the data visualization process, if you get a project in Power BI, how do you create it, right? What goes into it? First of all, is a problem definition, right? Problem definition is where somebody, an end user, somebody who cares about this project, comes out and say, okay, we have a problem here. We need to collect data in order to make decisions like this, right? Maybe we are not tracking our profits properly within the company. So in order to track the profits within the company, we are gonna collect data, and the data is gonna help us make decisions, right? So we define the problem that we are trying to solve, and then we start collecting the data, right? How do we collect the data? That's next thing we come up with. If we decide that, okay, we are going to build systems where if somebody, let's say the bus example I made, when somebody, people get on the bus, they have to scan their card for us to take the money from them. This is how we are going to track the data, right? So once we collect the data, then the data has to be cleaned and stored in a location, right? The data is stored in a database, which I'll show you guys today as well. And then when the data is stored in the database, then a tool like Power BI will go into that database, take that data from there, it will do some transformation in Power BI, which we're going to do today. And then you can do your analysis, visualization in Power BI, and then you present your findings as an analyst to your CEOs or whoever your end user is. So you have to go to them and tell them that based on this analysis that I've done, this is what your data is saying, right? So, yeah, let me also introduce our program here. So we have a bootcamp program that we use to teach how it's structured is this is my partner, by the way. He's a data engineer, business intelligence developer as well. Very thankful for him. So we teach Excel, Power BI, Tableau, SQL, and we also do career mentorship. So this is how the program is structured. Right now, we will finish Excel on Monday. From Power BI, we will start that on Wednesday and finish that on September 10th. And then we will move to Tableau from there, and then we will do SQL and we do review. So we do our classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we do mentorship on Saturdays. So today we did mentorship. The mentorship, it focuses on career coaching, resume, interview prep, and all other things that we can do to help students learn jobs in data. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me show you how Power BI works, and let me introduce you. If you never used Power BI, actually, let me share a different screen. I think this screen, it is not, this screen is too big. So Let me share the smaller screen. So let me do stop share here. And then let me share screen one. And then I'll put this here. So if you've never used Power BI, this is how you can download it. If you go in and let me just Google download Power BI desktop. So make sure you're getting it from the Microsoft website, because you don't want to go through any scam websites. So if you go here with the download, if you click this download, you can select the 64 bytes, or the first one should be fine as well. And then you can download it. I already have it downloaded on mine that I use. So if you hit download, actually, let me click it. It's not going to hurt. And then it will download the setup for you. And then once you do the setup, you can just run the setup. It's very easy and quick. It will just install that Power BI for you. And then once you're done installing it, you will get something like this, right? You will get this. So again, Google Power BI download, or let me copy this and put this in our chat. If anybody wanna click on it from here, you can. Where's the chat here? This is the link in the chat. So you can click on it to download it for yourself. And then you can learn with me today. So if we go in here, like I said, this is Power BI, the interface. Once you come in, it will either look like this, or you may see a page like this, right? If you see this page, that is totally fine. Just click blank report. If you don't see this page and it brings you here directly, then that is your blank report. Okay, let me check. I don't see anybody's hand up. So, like I said, when we collect data, right, data engineers are responsible for building pipelines to store the data in a database for us, right? Today, as an example, what I'm going to do is from a SQL server, right? Since you guys don't have this on your computer, or you don't have this, you can either have access to this at work. Normally, companies have this. So when you join the company, they will give you the credentials to be able to log into this. But since you may not have that from your work, or you may not have a database installed on your computer, what I've done here is I have set up this, what I'm going to use to teach, also as a CSV that you can download. So let me make that also available to you. And let me do anyone with the link. Let me copy the link. And I just put the data in the link as well. So no, I put the link in the chat. So when you click that link, you'll be able to download the data that I'm going to use as a CSV. And I'll show you how you can connect to that. Okay. So this is what a SQL database looks like, right? If you go to work as a data analyst, you will see something like this. So when you go in and you connect to your server, this is where we store data, all right? So if I go in here and let me see what I have here. Yeah, so I have all these databases, right? And if I go in, this is a table within the database. So normally you have the server. The server is like the computer, right? And then when you go into the server, you have databases. So it's like going into a neighborhood, right? The neighborhood is the server. And within the neighborhood, you have different houses, right? Or you can have a house, you can have a store, you can have different things there. Those are the databases. And when you go inside a house, right, you have rooms within the house, right? So the rooms can be considered tables. And in each room, we have things we store inside the rooms, right? Some rooms can be a bedroom, some can be a living room. So whatever we are storing inside these rooms, that is the actual data, right? So it's a server and it goes to a database. And from a database, it goes to a table. And the table is what is used to store the data, right? So when we say table, this is what it looks like. Let me write a SQL statement here. And we are not here to learn SQL today, but I just want to show you what it looks like, right? When you go into a table, this is what a table looks like, right? This is a table for transaction data that we have stored in a database, right? The table's name is the dbo.websales. And in the table, we see we have a date, we have a customer age, we have age group, we have customer gender, country, state, product category, subcategory, product, order quantity, unit cost, and unit price. So this gives us transactional data. And based on this transactional data, it's telling us how much we spent on these items, how much people paid for these items, what kind of products are we selling, the categories and the subcategories. And then it tells us the location in terms of the country and within the countries, the state where we made that transaction. Our customers, right? Do we have males or females? Our age group, the customer ages and the date on which the transaction happened. So as a company, we are collecting and storing this data just so we can use this data to make smart decisions for the company. And this is what I mentioned, that no CEO or director or end user want to go in and just look at this data one by one and see what is going on, right? So that is why data analysts are important, because as an analyst, you want to be able to take this data, summarize it into something more meaningful for your CEO to look at. So now the question becomes, I have Power BI, right? How can I connect Power BI to a database in order to bring the data in here to analyze? Because in SQL, you cannot create all those visualizations. So here, Power BI, the first thing I want you guys to learn is get data, right? Get data. This is how you bring data from any different source into Power BI. Because when you open Power BI for the first time, it just looks like a blank software. There's nothing in here to do. It's just sitting there. In order for this to be powerful, like they say, data has to flow through here. So if you go to get data, and I'm going to click more, right? When we do more, you can see that there's a whole bunch of different databases here that you can get data from. Whole lot of them, right? I'm even pretty sure there's more that Power BI don't support yet. But here's the case where you get data simply from Excel, CSV files, which the link I put for my data source, if you download it, it's going to be a CSV file, right? If you have a folder that you want to grab the data from directly, you can. SharePoint, SQL Server database, which is what I'm going to get data from. And this is what a lot of companies use out there. My company uses SQL and Oracle databases. And then IBM, they have their own databases. We have Azure, right? Microsoft, they have Azure databases, Azure SQL database, Synapse, all these different databases that you can connect to. And when you go to AWS, who is also huge when it comes to cloud data storage, AWS will have their own databases in here too. So good amount of databases, but normally when you go work for a company, they probably use one or two of these, right? So you're not out there tapping into a lot of different databases. So this time, if you downloaded that data source from my folder, you can just do a test CSV, and then you can hit connect, and it's going to ask you, where do you want to get your data? So wherever you downloaded the data to, you can just go select it. So if I go like here, now let's say I go into data sets, and the data that I'm working with, let's just say I put it in this file here, right? Then you can click on it and open it, and it's going to load for you, right? So when it loads for you, I'm going to connect mine to the SQL server. But when this loads for you, it will be the same thing from that point on, right? Getting the data, it works the same way everywhere else. It's just that sometimes your company will have credentials on the database, so you will have to put in a password in order to log in. But this time I'm just going to do SQL Server, because that's where my data is stored. And when I do SQL Server, it's going to ask me what is the service name and what is the database that I'm trying to connect to. Remember how I explained it? The server is the computer, right? It's like the entire neighborhood. The database is the houses within the neighborhood. The tables are the rooms within the houses. And whatever is stored in those rooms, your bed, your clothing, all of that, that is data, right? So if I go in here, now I need the name of my server in order to connect to this. When you join a company, they will normally give you this information, right? The company will tell you this is what our server is. So this is the credentials for our server. So that's where you connect to. In this case, you can see mine is Windows authentication, but normally companies will give you a login authentication, and they will give you a password to log in with. So if I copy this and then I go in here and I put my server name here, right? Now it's going to ask me for a database, but I'm not even going to put anything here. Let me just hit OK. All right. And then when I do this, I think I also have something, one of the files already loaded here. But you can see that when I open my server, it opens the different databases I have within that server. When it gives me the different databases I have, now I need to go into one of these databases and then find the table I'm going to work with, right? In this case, I'm going to use the web sales, right? In Power BI, when you click this, it gives you a preview of the data. It tells you this is what your data looks like, right? So if you look at the data and you're like, maybe this is not what I want. Let's say if I started with the bike sales because I'm looking for some kind of data and I am not sure where that data is, I can click on it here. It's not going to load anything. It's just going to give me the preview. And with the preview, I can see the different columns I have. These are called columns. And each one of these horizontal values are called rows, right? So the row is the attribute of these columns. So if we look at one, sale ID one, this is the date it happened, customer ID, the model we sold, the price. So that is the attributes of that particular transaction. So now if I click the web sales, that's what I want to use. So I'm going to click this and I'm going to say transform data, right? I'm going to hit transform data. So at this point, right, let me bring this here. All right, when I hit that transform data, it has loaded the data into what we call Power Query, right? Power Query, that's what Power BI is built on. Very powerful tool. So you can see, based on my PowerPoint that I was showing you here, right? I showed you that we define a problem. In this particular case, the problem was that we have a store, we are doing transactions there, but we don't have any way of tracking our profit. We don't have any way of tracking our expenses, which I'm pretty sure you probably know some people who have a business who are not tracking their profits very well. I know a lot of those people. So at the end of the year, it's like, if you ask them, how much profit did you make this year? How much revenue did you make this year? They can't give you a good number, right? They can only estimate it. And that's not a good business practice. So we defined a problem. We've collected the data from the store. The data engineers have done the cleaning and they've stored the data in the SQL database, or if you're using the CSV file in that particular case. And what we've done, we have connected Power BI to that data, right? We've connected Power BI to the data, and then now we are about to transform the data, because sometimes when based on the requirements you have, you may connect the data, and the data may not have everything you want yet, right? So in this particular case, as an analyst, your next step is to make sure you understand the data very well. So I'm looking at my day, customer age group, all these details. But now the question becomes, I see I have a unit cost, a unit price, and I have a quantity, right? The question becomes, how many, based on the quantity that I've sold, how much money did I make as a revenue based on the quantity? How much did I spend based on the quantity? What is my profit, right? You can see the data doesn't have all of that. But what we need to do is we need to create those columns, because that's what we need for our visualization, right? So let's just say that before I do anything in here, I just say close and apply, right? The data is loaded in Power Query. I hit close and apply. So now the data is going to load in here. You can see that is loading, right? So now I'm about to also do what we call extract, transform, and load. So that means that extracting the data is I've connected to my SQL and I've brought that data into Power BI, and I'm going to transform it and I'm going to load it. In this particular case, I didn't do any transformation on it. In Power BI, the face interface looks like this. This is where we create all the visualizations from. This is where all the data, so this is the table, and within the table, it tells us these are all the different columns we have, right? The symbols you see in front of it just indicate what type of data it is. So here, this just tells us it's a number. This just tells us it's a date, and these are numbers. If it's a test, it's not going to have anything in front of it, right? So now I can go in and say, okay, maybe I can say, give me a table, right? Like I said, these are all the different visuals we have here. So if I take a table and if I click on a table here, I just clicked on it, you can see it pops it here. There's nothing in it, right? If I go in here and I say, give me a date, and the date, maybe I want the year. So when I click on the date, the data here, it puts the data into the tables data, right? If you click outside anywhere, it's not going to do that for you. You have to select the visual, and then you click the column you want to put in there. So now I say the dates, and the date, I'm going to delete these and just have a date, year, right? So now I have 2019 to 2024. And let's say I say, give me the unit cost, unit prices. This doesn't mean anything to my end user, right? Now I'm saying, okay, I have a year, I have unit cost, I have unit price. Maybe I can throw in a product. This is drag and drop, right? I selected this and I moved it here. You can also just click on it and it pulls it. I can say in 2019, Mountain 100 Silver, this particular product, we had a unit cost of $43,000. We sold it for a unit price of $77,000. But this doesn't mean anything, right? I want things like profit, revenue, cost. In order to do that, I have to transform the data into what I want. So now you can see that when I loaded the data, it took me to Power Query directly. But since I am already on the Power BI interface, I'm going to click this. See this transform data here? This is what we use to get the data. This is what we're going to use to transform the data. If I click on transform data, it will open Power Query again for me, right? This is what we started where I loaded the data from. So now, even when you're working on the front end of Power BI, you can always come back here and make decisions, not decisions, and make revisions. And once you're done with these revisions, you can click apply or close and apply, and the revisions will reflect on the front end of Power BI. So If I go in here, now I'm like, I have order quantity, I have my unit cost, I have my unit price. So what I'm going to do is in here, you can click add column here, right? Add column here. And then I'm going to tell it that I want to add a custom column, right? Custom column is how you just do calculations for a column. So my custom column, let's say I have my unit cost. So I'm going to call the custom column, let's say total cost, right? The name of the column, I'm going to call it total cost. And with the total cost, I am going to say, take my unit cost and multiply that. I just hit multiply on my keyboard and multiply that by order quantity, right? So take how many things people ordered and multiply that by the quantity they ordered. That should give me the total cost of how much we paid for it. So if I hit OK, you can see Power BI. One thing also is anytime you do anything here, it puts it in the applied steps. That way you can always be able to go back and see what you've done. All right. This is not in Excel, you can't do that. In Excel, you make changes and you're done. All right. You can undo your changes, but it doesn't show you all the changes that you're making. Power BI, you can do that in Power Query, where you can be able to see the different steps. So now it tells me that I added a custom column here. You can see my code here. It says I added my total cost, and it was unit cost times order quantity. So based on this, if I come here now, you can see I have a total cost column here, right? Now I'm going to add another custom column, and then I'm going to call this total price. And my total price is going to be my unit price, and I'm going to do insert multiplied by my order quantity, right? So now I'm just doing calculations in here. And then if I hit OK, that also becomes another, you can see it says I added another custom column. So now that I have my total cost, and it may be instead of the total price, I'll call that revenue instead. So here, when you add things here, the gear button here, you can click on that and then you go back to make adjustments, right? So if I click on this, it brings me back here and I say, instead of the total price I used, I'm gonna use revenue, right? So now you can see the column changes to revenue. Now what I'm gonna do, data types are very important. In Power BI, you can change your data types here, right? So the ABC123 tells me that Power BI hasn't defined a specific data type for this. So I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna say, make this a whole number, right? So that Power BI can read it properly. It's important that you use the correct data types because let's say this is a test. If I go in and I try to do a calculation on it and tell Power BI that add all these things, Power BI is not going to be able to add them up because it's going to say this is not a number, right? So it's very important to use the correct data types. And now I'm going to make this a whole number as well. And based on these, I have my total cost, I have my revenue. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate my profit out of this. So I'm going to say, add another custom column for me, and then I'm going to call this profit. And with the profit is going to be my total revenue here. So I'm going to insert this into the formula, and then I'm going to subtract my total cost, right? How much I made for the product versus how much I paid for it. That gives me my profit. And then I click this. Now you can see that when I changed the data types, if I go back here, you can see this is ABC123. When I change the data type here, I have 123, 123. So it tells me that is a number, right? You can see if I go in that data types, the 123 is a whole number. And then I've added another custom. So it's tracking all the changes that I'm making. And here, This is my profit. So I'm going to change the profit into a whole number as well, right? Or maybe instead of the whole number, let me change it to money, right? Let me change it to a fixed decimal number, which is dollars, right? It's going to ask me, do you want to insert this step? You've already done this. Do you want to insert something in there? I'll say insert, and then I'll say replace the current step. So instead of the number I use, make it a dollars instead. My revenue as well, I'm going to change that and make it dollars because we're dealing with money here, right? It's not going to matter. I think all it does is the dollars will just give you the numbers up to 2 decimal places. Whole number gives you the number to no decimal place. But we want to make sure that we are getting all of that stuff. And then I added my profit, which is my revenue minus my cost. So I'm going to change that into dollars as well. Now, all this I'm doing is called data transformation. I am taking the data that I got and I am transforming it into what I need based on my requirements, right? So my requirements also maybe says that I need to, they give us the age group as youth less than 25, adults 35 to, yes, I am streaming this on YouTube. So after this, I'll send the YouTube link out to everybody that are registered as well. So it will be on YouTube when it's done. So here, if I go to age group, I can see the arrows here is just a way of filtering data as well. So if I go in, I can see the different age groups. Here, let's say you see how we have all these different countries, right? If I go in here and let's say I filter my data to US, and I click OK, you can see now, you see that filtered data, and then it says US. And in the applied steps, it says filtered rows, and it says that you filtered country is equal to United States, right? So that is the arrows, that's what it's used for. You can also use it to sort data in ascending and descending order. So that was just by the way. But now, another thing that we also need to do here, and I think I did it in one of these, I want to use that to teach you guys here. All right. If I go in here, my requirements also says that I need to add continents, right? I have countries here. I have countries here. I have Australia, Canada, France, Germany, United Kingdom. Let me load more. And United States, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have these different countries. But the requirement says that what if somebody wants to be able to see the data based on a specific continent? Or if somebody wants to see Europe and be able to see all the countries in Europe together? What if somebody want to see North America and see Canada and US together, right? The only way to do that is to have some kind of column in here that lists out the columns within for the different countries. So since they didn't give us that, right, we are gonna create our own column, right, called continent, right? In this particular case, we can use something like conditional column. Conditional column. Conditional column is how you tell it that if this is equal to that, give me this. If this is equal to that, give me that. You can see when we were doing the formulas, we did a custom column, right? Now we are going to do a conditional column, right? So we are adding the same columns, but the conditional is based on a specific condition. So this one, I'm going to call this column a continent. And then I'm going to say, if it's going to ask me what column do you want to use? And then I'm going to say, if my country is equal to Canada. By the way, you can also do like if it contains. You can say if this contains, if this begins with, if this ends with, you can do all of that, right? So if my country is equal to Canada, then the continent is North America, right? And I'm going to say add another clause and say if my country is equal to United States, Or for the United States, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say if it contains United States, because sometimes if they're collecting the data and they collect it as United States of America, I still want to be able to capture that. So I'm going to say if the country contains United States, that means that if the country comes out as United States, it will grab it. If it comes out as United States of America, then it's going to grab it either way, right? Then I want to make that a North America too. Else leave it blank, right? I'm going to show you something here. If I do this, you can see some of these came out as North America. The first two, for instance, the country is Canada. So it came off as North America. But Australia came off as blank, right? Nothing on it because I told it that only give me North America for Canada and US. I didn't specify the rest, right? So now I can click this gear, like I said, to always go back to that transformation step. And then now I'm going to say add more in here to say if the country is equal to, let's say, Australia. I believe Australia is its own continent. And I'm going to say again that if the country is equal to Germany, because we have Germany in here, then make it Europe. And I think the other one that we had was United Kingdom. So that one too, I think it makes more sense for me to say contains, because if it comes out more or less, I will still be able to get that. United Kingdom, then that will be Europe as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see if I captured everything. If I go in here, I still have blanks in here. Let me filter on the null and see the blank ones. Now the blank ones, I have France in here. France is the only thing left, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this filter step. I'm going to click this gear to go back in here. And then I'm going to say if the country is equal to France, then I want that to be Europe. So now you can see that everything is valid. I don't have anything here. By the way, if you don't see this in yours, just go to view. It's called column quality. When you first go in, this is probably what you will see. So click here on the column quality. It will show you if you have any errors in your data or emptiness in your data. In this case, everything is valid, right? So now I've used the data transformation to calculate my total cost, my revenue, my profit, and then I've also done a conditional column to calculate my continent, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do close and apply again. And then it's going to load to the front end, right? So this is what data visualization is. If you're working in Power BI, this is where you will spend most of your time, because sometimes the data might come out dirty and you need to do some cleaning on it. You need to make adjustments. You need to calculate it in a way that makes sense for your requirements, right? So based on this now, this box here, this is where we are going to create our dashboard, right? You can also do it. You can create multiple pages and create different reports in different pages. But for this example, I'm just going to do one page, right? So with the one page, what I'm going to start with is that now the question becomes, what analysis can we do here, right? Let me check if anybody has had a question. I don't see any hands up. Okay, so we can keep going. I can't see the screen on my other one. So now we are going to say, what kind of analysis do we want to do? We have transformed the data. Now we have to do the analysis and use the analysis to build the visualization, right? So maybe one of the requirements is the CEOs want to be able to see our profit trend per year for when the data collection started. And then we want to be able to drill down into like a month, right? So now I would say that if you're doing like a trend, the proper chart to use for that is a line chart. So I'm going to click on this line chart, and that comes in here. You can use these arrows to expand it. And then I'm going to say, give me a date, right? And then give me a profit, right? Give me a profit here. This is my profit. And I say, give me a profit here, right? And then now you can see the date has a hierarchy on it. It goes year, quarter, month, and day. I don't care about my days. I don't care about I'll keep the quarters in there, right? So by doing this, now you can see that we see our data trending from 2019, we made $2 million, and it keeps 2021, it was still around $4 million, wasn't bad. 2022, we went all the way to $12 million. We really did well. And then 2023, we dropped down to $3.3 million. And then we went back to $15 million. So it seems like here something happened within the company, but we bounced back in 2024. So now we can use this to ask ourselves questions. What did we do wrong here? How do we make sure we don't return to a profit dip like this again, right? What did we do to get back to 15 million? What do we need to do more? Maybe here we had proper marketing strategies in place. Maybe we hired the proper employees. Maybe we got a new CEO who took the company to a different level. All of that could have happened here, right? So the reason behind doing data analysis is about asking, okay, what did we do wrong? What can we do right? How can we improve this process? It's all about making proper decisions for a company, right? So now this gives us this, right? It gives us the year. The reason why I left the hierarchies on, which Power BI did by default, is because you can click on this, right? And then you can say, I'm going to turn on my drill down. Drill down just means that now that I'm looking at the year, if I want to see like 2023, for instance, I can click on it, and then we can see from 2023, these are our quarters, right? So the profit increased during the different quarters. But if I want to, let's say, go into the months, right? I can see from July, August. So actually, let me take out the quarters and just make it year and month. So now, if I go into 2023, this is the year. If I click on this, it brings me to the months, right? And then it tells me that from May, I guess we didn't even make any profit from January to May. And then we kept going, and the profit was pretty flat here. And then in November, we did well. And then December, we did well. But we didn't touch a million in any of these quarters. Meanwhile, in 2024, right, we did a million all in these months. We did a million all here. But December, we dropped to 163. So the question becomes, why did our profit drop so much in December? Maybe we were running a bunch of discounts in the store to get items to clear out. Anything could have happened here, right? So if we go in, what we can also do is we can add our revenue as another line here. And then we can also add our total cost as another line here, right? So now I have my profit. Let me just remove the sums. I have my revenue. Power BI by default calculates these as a sum, which is how I want it. But if you didn't want it like that, you can just click this arrow here. And then based on this arrow, you can pick what you want to pick here, right? So now I've created a simple chart, it looks like, but this simple chart, it tells us a lot. It tells us revenue we've made for each year. It tells us cost, how much we incurred, and the profit we made for each year, right? And this tells us that, okay, this year from 2021 to 2022, we improved, and then we dipped again in 2023, which was bad, right? But let me keep that on here for now, right? Now, since we're building a dashboard, we need different visuals in here. So now the next request is, okay, give us a profit by each region, because we want to be able to see how much money we are making in each region, right? So with that, I'm going to say region and profit, maybe, what's it called? Map is my best bet, right? So now I'm gonna use this one. When you hover over this, it tells you the type of visual. So I'm gonna click here and then bring my map visual on here. And then with the map, I'm gonna tell it that, let's say, use the country, right? Use the country so you can see when I clicked on the country, or let me just drag it and drop it here. That will make it easy for you to understand. I'm dragging it from here and I'm dropping it under the location. You can see that when I drop this here, it tells us all the different places that we have transactions on, right? Australia, Europe. These are the countries in Europe. This is US, this is Canada, right? But this doesn't tell me much because all the circles are the same. So I can tell it that put a profit in, let's say, a legend, right? And based on the legend, I may not even want to do colors. What I can do when you're doing this, you can go here, right? Format your visual in the middle here, and then you can say the legend, right? But this is just the legend at the top. So the bubbles here, it asks me, what do you want to do with these bubbles, right? So let me see what I want to do. It asks me what colors I want to pick for the different bubbles here. But in this particular case, I think I dropped the profit in the wrong legend. So let me drop the profit inside a bubble size instead, right? So here, every visual comes with its own functionalities. Let me say that. So this one, it tells me I can put something for a bubble size. So I'm going to do profit as a bubble size here. So now you can see that based on the profit I made, the bubble size increases, right? So bubble size under the format visual, I'm going to go ahead and increase the bubble size here, right? But, the colors, you can put different colors. But by looking at this, if any manager looks at this, right, they can tell that, okay, seems like the US bubble is bigger. Australia is also big. It comes down to this. Canada and the European countries are pretty close. So by looking at this, it tells me straight up that US, right, is where I make most of my profit, right? And then we can even go as far as, let me see what the heat map will do for us. Okay, that's not what I want. We can go as far as putting a legend on the bubble as well. So let me see what I need to do here in order to get that, right? I want to do the continent that I got. I want to put the continent as my legend. And this is what is going to happen. If I put the continent here, now you can see it put colors on this for me. So now Australia is the blue one. Europe is the dark blue. North America is the orange one, right? So it looks better this way for me. So I'm going to reduce the size of this, right? And then I'll fit that somewhere in here for now, right? The title, if I go to format visuals and I go to general, the title, I can change the title to, let's say, profit by country, right? Profit by country, and just call it that. And then I'll use this to center it, right? Now I just created this visual. A third visual that I can create is maybe it says that we want to see which of our products made us more profit, right? which of our products is the best selling product, right? So I can go in here, and then with that, the best one to use is a clustered bar chart, right? Anyways, if you're a data analyst, at this point, you've had meetings with your clients and your end users to see what charts work best for them, okay? So you don't have to come up with them off of your head. But now, based on this, I'm going to say, take the product, put the product in the x-axis, and then in the y-axis, sorry, and then in the x-axis, give me the profit, right? Give me the profit here. So now you can see that by doing this, again, I'm going to go to the format visual, the general, the title, and I'm going to say profit. I'm going to call it profit by product, right? So by doing this, you can see that if anybody looks at this chart, right, easy is going to show them this particular product, the Mountain 200 Silver, is our best selling product, right? But I don't want to just end it there, right? I want to say, okay, maybe put category on top of the products, right? So that if I go in initially, I see this, right? I see bikes, accessories, including, which is what we are buying. What I did was I dragged the category, product category, and I put it on the top of the product. So now Power BI treats it as what we call a drawdown, right? That's the same thing that data was doing for us. So with bike accessories including, now if I click on bikes here and I turn on my drill down and I click on bikes, right? Now it goes into the bikes and it tells me now that you're in the bikes, these are the different bikes, you know. So the last one was the Touring 3000 green. That's how much profit it made us, 158,000. So as we look at this, when we're making decisions for the year, we can plan to bring in more of these bikes and less of these, the low selling bikes, right? Because we know which products are making us the most profit. So that's what we need to target more, right? So let me take that. And whenever you go up with your drawdown, you can see now I'm getting this as well. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and on the y-axis, I'm just gonna turn off the title here so that it doesn't show, because I don't want to show it there. And the x-axis, I'm gonna turn off the title as well, right? All of that is under the format visual. So now that I have this, right, the next step, next visual that maybe came up is, okay, give us age groups and how much profit we've made from the different age groups, right? So another one that we can do is, let's say we will use a column chart for this one. If we do a column chart here, we can say age group. We have our customer ages here, right? But if we take this and we just take profit, you see how it is? Like it gives us this, all these bars, a lot of bars, because it's telling us that based on the different ages we have. So it goes from 17, 18, 19, 20, right? And it keeps going like that. I mean, based on this, we can easily tell that from like the 20s to the 40s, we sell more and it drops from there. But this is not how I want my data to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on customer age, and then I'm going to create a new group, right? I'm going to say create a new group. It's going to tell me how many bins do you have, right? I'm going to say, give me just 5 bins, right? And if you give me, or maybe instead of the number of bins, I'll do bin size. And then I'm going to do 20. So what I'm doing now is that it's going to calculate all the ages from 0 to 20. And then it's going to calculate 20 to 40, and then 40 to 60, and then 60 to 80, and all of that, right? So now I'm going to click OK. When I do that, you can see that Power BI creates customer age bench here for me, right? So this visual, when I click on this visual, it tells me what I used for my x-axis, which was the customer age. So I'm going to take that away and I'm going to drop my customer age bench. So now you can see that, right? The 0 to 20, between 20 and 40, I'm doing well. 40 to 60, it drops significantly. And then to 80, it drops. So when I go out there to do my commercials, maybe if I want to target more elderly people, then I want to do a commercial that focuses on them. If I want to increase my sales on the young people because I know they're purchasing more from me, then I'll do this. These are the kind of analysis that companies will do before they shoot their Super Bowl commercials. You will see a car like Buick, which will have an older person driving it, right? You will have a Subaru, which will have a mom driving with her kids. That is because the company have done their analysis and maybe they've realized that moms buy our cars more. So let's do an ad that focuses on them, right? Maybe Buick have done their analysis to determine that uh, older people buy their cars more. So they do this kind of analysis to be able to focus on those older folks to buy more, continue to buy more, right? So that is that. Now, what we can do is that actually what I'm going to do here, you know how I put the product category on top of this? I'm going to delete it and just have it by product, right? So we can just see it based on the product. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a pie chart, right? And the pie chart, what I'm going to do with it, or actually, no, let me not confuse you guys. Let me put the product category back here, right? Let's have it as this. If you turn on your drill down, you can click here and drill down either way. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a pie chart here. And this pie chart, I'm going to see between males and females who made us more profit. So now I'm strictly doing profit analysis, right? This analysis I'm doing, you can do it for revenue, you can do it for cost, you can do it for amount of things people purchased. If you're just focusing on doing the sale counts, you can do it for whatever you want. That's why you can build different pages in here so that each one will focus on different aspects. This one, I'm just doing profit analysis. So now, if I go in here and I say, give me customer gender, right? Customer gender as my legend, and then give me the profit as my values, right? You can see here that, let me shrink these a little bit so that we get more space for the cost, the gender, right? So again, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go to general, the title, I'm gonna say profit by, I'm just gonna call this gender, right? And then I'm gonna center it to, let me do the same thing for this one, profit by customer. Customer ages. I don't care about the rest. I'm gonna center that to the profit by product. I'm gonna center that. So this one, inside the format visual, I can say data labels here. It tells me how my data is placed. So let me just, yeah, those three are fine. But position, I'm gonna say prefer outside. Or maybe let me say prefer. I was trying to put it at a place where this can get to show. But either way, you can see by just looking at, oh, let me see the legend instead of the center right here. I can put it at the bottom center, right? So now I have my gender, right? Let me delete this one in here so that it just shows gender male, female. I can see that my females, I made 49% of my profit from females. I made 51% of my profit from males, $21.4 million from males, $20.6 million from females. So men purchase more, or we make more profit from men than women within our store. That's what it's saying. So now I've added these 5 visuals, right? What I can do is, since I'm doing an interactive dashboard, I want to be able to give my end user the option to filter the data, right? So now I'm going to add what we call a slicer, right? The slicer, if I throw that slicer in here, slicer can be used to filter data. So if I put slicer here and I tell the slicer that maybe, or let's use continent first, right? And then I'll go to the format visual and the slicer settings. I'm just going to do it a drop down, right? So this is the slicer I just added. If you go and click on this arrow, you are able to select Australia. You can see now it's only giving me data for Australia. You can select Europe. It will give you data for Europe, and it even expands the countries, right? If I do North America, it gives me North America, right? So this is an interactive dashboard. Anytime I click on it, you can see that it's changing, right? So I can add another slicer. Here you can copy and paste visuals too. So now I'm just gonna copy visual, and then I'm just gonna do Control V and paste this visual, and it's gonna put it here for me. Now I'm gonna add another slicer for, let's say, country. And then now I'll also add another slicer for, let's say, product category. You can add as many slices as you want, right? Let me delete this, right? So now I have country, I have continent, country, and product category. And then I think the last one that I'm gonna add is I'm gonna add a slicer for gender. Where's my gender? I'm gonna add another slicer for gender. So now let me reduce the size of. Now you can see though that my visuals is kind of all over the place here. It doesn't have any beautification, So in order for this to look more appealing to the eyes of the end user, I want it to have some like borders around it and stuff. So if I click on this and I go here, and then I can say general, the effects here, I can say add a visual border, right? It will add, you can see now, this just added a border for me. But personally, I normally prefer a shadow instead. So if I go to effect, instead of visual border, I'll do a shadow. If I go here, I'll do a shadow. And here I'll do a shadow as well, so that it looks like those things you see when you go on a website, right? I'll do a shadow here. And then these ones, I'm not going to do a shadow. I'll just do visual border for these. When it comes to designing this to look appealing, you're the analyst. You design it how you believe will be nicer for the client, right? So the visual border is too thick for me. So let me do 0.5. Oh, I think 1 is the minimum I can do. But the color, maybe I'll do this gray. Or maybe let me make it a little darker. Here, the visual border, I'm choosing different colors for it. Working in Power BI, when you get a hang of it, it's fun, right? You design things, you make it look nicer. So let me do this. Let me put this here. Let me put this here. And let me put this here. All right. So now what I've done here is, if somebody goes in and they look at France, now they're only looking at data for France. If they look at Germany, they're looking at Germany, right? US, they're looking at US. Canada, they're looking at Canada, right? So they can do all analysis based on a specific country. Here, if we want to look at just females, you can see the gender changed to female. Everything has changed to females. Males, same thing, right? So now, if I go in here, I can do this. I could do this, right? I can do this. Let me adjust the sizes a little bit to look nicer for me. And then, now this is what it looks like. I like this, right? This one, let me shrink it down a little bit because I want to add some, KPIs at the top, right? Map, I can make the map stay bigger, right? Now, KPIs, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, what is that? Because somebody can look at this, right? They've seen all these spread, but an easier way to look at data is to have a card that shows this was your revenue, this was your cost, this was your profit, right? So with that, I'm gonna add a card from here, right? Or Power BI just also came up with a multi-card, so you can add more cards within one visual. So I'm gonna do that new card. And then on the new card, I'm gonna say, give me my profit, give me my revenue, and then give me my total cost, right? Total cost, I'm just gonna call it total cost. Revenue, I'm just gonna call it revenue. It always add the sum of because it tells you what it's doing, but I don't really care about that. So you can see now the numbers are hidden. So I'm gonna expand it here, and then seems like a bunch of decimal places. I don't want that. So now if I go into the format visuals, and I'm going to say call out values, right? And the call out values, I'll do this for all of them. I'm going to reduce this to like 30, the font style to like 30. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to center them properly. And then what I'm also going to do is let me see where I can change these unit prices, right? If I go in here, or I can do it from here. When you select that revenue here, you can see it pops out the column twos for you. The currency here, the decimal places, I'm just going to make it a 0 decimal place, right? And then the profit, I'm going to make it a 0 decimal place as well. And then the total cost, I'm going to make it a 0 decimal place as well. Okay. So now I can reduce this a bit to make it look smaller. And I can take this and I can fit it somewhere up here, right? But for this to fit properly, let me see if I can just reduce this more.
Okay.
Or, I mean, this is fine. But I want to put a title on my dashboard. So let me just put it right here. And then this one, I can reduce it. And I'm going to turn the title of this one off just so it looks better, right? So now I can also reduce the sizes of these so that it will help me expand this a little bit more and a little bit more. And I don't know, I'm a visual person. I always want things to look perfect. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Right? So now I've done this and I've put some visuals here. This, I don't want it to be white because it kind of flows into this. It doesn't make it look nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to go to the cards and the background here. Instead of the white, let me see if I can use a blue. Or I'll just use the white for the inside part. But I want to change what is around it, right? So maybe the layout is where I can do that. And I'll turn on a background. And then instead of the white, I'm going to make it like a blue. Why did it not do it? Okay, it only did the center. But what I can also do is in my general effect, okay, my general effect, let me do that blue. This one will do it for me, right? So now this looks better, right? And then let me go ahead and reduce it a bit here. So now I have my profit by country. I have total profit, revenue, total cost. Let me change the arrangement of it. So it goes revenue, cost, profit. Now, if I go into a continent and I select Europe, you can see Europe, we made $31 million. We made a profit of 14 million. Australia is 11 million. North America is 18 million, right? So just like the bubbles we saw, that's what we're seeing here, right? And then we can see the trends for the different years, and then we can see our slices, right? The slices, I also don't want it to have that white thingy. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go general effects, background. Let me see. I'll maybe make it light gray just so it stands out a little bit. I prefer it that way. Right? So now my slices look like this. So if users go in, they can click here and the white pops out. Now with this one, what I can then do is I can insert a text box, right? And this text box, I'm gonna call it store. I'm just gonna call it store profit analysis, right? Store profit analysis. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just stretch it over the entire dashboard here, right? And then what I'm gonna leave a little space in between that and this, but this is too small for me. So I'm gonna select it and maybe make it like 18, maybe 20. 20, I'm kind of pushing it. 18 is fine. I'm gonna center it, right? When I select this, I'm gonna go into the properties. I want to change the background. So effect, the background, maybe I can make it blue. And then the writings that I have in here, when I select this, let me make it white and let me make it bold, right? Just like doing things in like Word. So now it looks like this, right? So now I just created a dashboard doing profit analysis. When my CEO or whoever cares about this looks at this, let me reduce the size of this a bit, looks at this, they can be able to say, okay, we made a revenue of 95 million. Our total cost was 53, profit was 42 million. During these years, these are the different years we made more money versus where our profit dipped. So what did we do well here? What do we need to improve on during the different years, right? We are making more money in the US, more profit in the US, followed by Australia, and then Canada and the European countries seem close. Age groups between 20 and 40 is where we sell the most. So we need to do more ads, targeting them, and we need to figure out how we can make more money within the other age groups. Products, right? We make more money selling bikes than the accessories. Clothing is where we make less money. If we want to be specific, we click into the bikes. You can see that when I clicked into the bikes, this whole thing, the numbers change and everything, because now I'm just looking at bikes, right? We made 28 million alone from bikes. These are the top products. And then it goes all the way to the Torrent 3000, right? Gender-wise, these are the different genders. Let me scroll back up here. But to make it easy for the end user, they can just use this to slice through the data and see. And when I select, let's say Europe, right? And I goes to next one, which is country. Now it's only giving me data for that continent because I've already selected Europe here. So now let's say France, I want to do control and I want to do France and Germany, right? Now I'm only looking at data for France and Germany. So you see here, it says multiple selections, right? If I want to just do bikes, I can just select bikes here. And then gender, I can just select male. So now I'm looking at Europe, I'm looking at France and Germany, I'm looking at bikes, and I'm looking at male. So now the question becomes, among my male customers who bought bikes, and then, I want to only look at data for France and Germany in Europe. Now, this is what my numbers look like. So this is interactive. So whatever you select, it pushes these different numbers for you to see what is going on, right? These are the kind of dashboards that people will look at, CEOs and users will look at to make proper decisions for their company, right? So now, at this step, what we've done, we connected the data to the SQL database that I showed you. We transformed it by adding all those extra columns. We've analyzed, the analysis is saying, what do I need to put on there? What analysis do I need to do? In this particular case, it was calculating things like profit, total profit for different genders per location, per products, per age groups. And then the visualization is what we've done here. And then the presentation part is pretty much as an analyst going to your CEO and then saying that, hey, by the way, based on the analysis that I've done, this is what the data shows. We should focus more here. You give your recommendations based on the data, right? But created this, we don't create dashboards in an hour. I just did one in an hour. But when you're doing it in a real world at work, it can take you months to do it, right? I started one dashboard in like August last year, and we're still working on it because the customer keep coming back with more feedback, and then we keep doing it. So at this point, you then have to publish the data, right? Your company will set up a Power BI service environment for you where you can publish your data for end users to be able to see, because you do the development in your desktop app. So this is the part that you need the environment. So my company here, we have our environment here, right? So now I can say home, and then I could say publish this dashboard, save the changes, and then it's gonna ask me, where do you want to publish this? What is the name? I'm gonna call it webinar sale data, right? And then the location, I'm gonna save it in one of these locations. So the company will set up this for you. I think this location is fine. Oh, where I'm saving this file. Okay. So let me just save it here. And then I'm gonna publish this to my, I'll just do the Power BI class. And then I'm gonna publish this. See, now it says it's publishing, and I'll show you what you can do after it's published, right? So now it says open webinar sales data. So if I go in here and I open it, I wanna open this. Let me copy, it open in the other browser that I don't want. So let me come in here. It gave me the link. So let me see. It should open. Oh, let me just go directly from the Power BI service environment, which your company will set this up for you. If you're the Power BI admin like myself, then you're probably the one setting up this for the company, right? So I publish this in the Power BI class workspace. This, we call it workspaces. That's where when you publish things online, Power BI stores it here for you. So this is the webinar sales data that we just did. I think the sales data was a bad name. I should have called it sales dashboard, right? But now we have this here. So if anybody works for my company and they have access to this, they'll be able to see it. If I want to put out there on the internet, I can just say publish to web, embed report, publish to web. It tells me this is what you have. So now, if I copy this link, it just put it on the web for you. And then I put the link in the chat for you guys. You can see that when you go to this link, you will be able to see the dashboard that I just built, right, and published. If you go to that link I just put in the chat, you'll be able to see that there. Okay, so now I've built this, I've shared it with you. So if you had a company and you're like, Clement, I need you to take my data, create a dashboard for me to do a profit analysis on, and we created a dashboard like this for you, you'll be able to go into that link and see what your dashboard is doing. And when you get here, this is interactive. So when you click things here, you're able to get the data you want. Now I'm looking at Germany, I'm looking at UK, I'm looking at US, right? You can be able to see your category, bikes, clothing, accessories. Now this works just like when I was doing the development. If any new changes come up, I'll come back into this one. I'll do all the changes here and I'll publish it again. Anytime you publish, it overwrites the data, right? But like I said, this is just now you probably know like 5% of Power BI. It goes beyond and beyond because here you can see that our data came from one source. When you're working in the real world, your data is going to come from different sources. Their data transformation is going to involve combining these data sets, doing more rigorous transformation on it, and then you're going to do more analysis, create different pages. These are examples of projects that I have done for this particular project that I put on my website. Is one that, like I told you guys in the beginning, I work in project management. That's my domain. So this particular project was a project performance dashboard I built for a client. Their goal was to see their project managers, their different projects that they are working on. What is the budget for them? This is a $60 million project portfolio, right? See different project managers, who has more budget, who is doing well, how the projects are doing through the different months. So with this, their KPIs, the red just means that the projects are not doing well. So with this, they wanted to have the ability for project managers to go in and select their self and be able to see how they're doing with their projects, right? So I gave them that option. They wanted to be able to see different dates and see how they're doing within specific time frames. I gave them that option with the dates here. They wanted to be able to look at project types, right? Energy, technology projects, transportation, and see how they're doing there too. So I gave them that option, right? So this dashboard actually landed me a job. It was built based on, for those of you who like football, this was built based on a football data where I said, how many World Cup finals have we played? Who have won which World Cups? You can see from here, the analysis shows that Brazil has won more World Cup, followed by Germany, Italy, and Argentina is fourth. And then France have won two. I actually thought France have won more World Cups, but they have two. Do goal scorers. Mbappe has scored more, followed by Hess, followed by Pele. Things like this. Continent. Europeans have won more World Cups than South American countries. This was country game stats. Here, Brazil has played 7, they've won 5, they've lost 2. Germany has played 8, but they've won 4, they've lost 4. So they have a bigger lose-win ratio. And yeah, 8 different countries have won the World Cup. Total games played 21. There's been 83 goals in the finals, excluding penalties. The map is just different locations. And this is interactive as well. So if I click this, I can see also 2022 Argentina versus France. Argentina scored 3, they conceded 3. They scored 3, they conceded 3. France scored 3, they conceded 3 as well. It was penalties. Mbappe scored 3 goals here. Messi and Di Maria scored too. So these are the kind of analysis that you're doing with these dashboards, right? And I just showed you, I just built one from scratch and shared the link with you. So yeah, like I said, we have a Power BI class that starts, I need to adjust the time. It starts on Wednesday. The class is on Mondays and Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to join that class, this is our website link here. You can go in and sign up for the class. Let me know if you have any questions. This is my contact. But for showing up to this webinar today, I always give a gift. If you go in to sign up, you can use this promo code. It will give you 10% off. The class is $300. If you use this, it will take 10% off, so it will cost you $270. If you are on here, you already signed up for it, let me know. I'll give you a 10% refund. And this is my contact details. If you want to reach out to me for any questions, whether it's about the class, whether it's about how to join, how to get into data, whether it's any questions at all, I host free webinars where we discuss different career fields and how to get into them. You can reach out for me for anything, okay? You don't have to pay me for anything. You can get free game. So the most recent webinar that we hosted, I actually put that on our website here. If you go to the home, I have it here. I hosted this with my partner to talk about how you can break into data analytics. We gave consistent game in here, on how you can break in what exactly goes in there, how you can get your foot in there the first time, the process you need to go through. All of it is here. You can tap into it and watch it, if you want. Actually, I think I can put the link to that as well in here for you guys. So if anybody want to go watch it, you can. Somebody said, can we get a data set for the World Cup? Yes, I connected to Google to do that one. But if you reach out to me, I can make it available for you. But when I connected to Google, I had to do a lot of transformations on it in Power BI. So maybe I did it the hard way, but I'm sure you can get clean data on it, Or if you go on, World Cup final games here, right? You can FIFA. Okay, FIFA actually has no. This is the one coming up. Let me just search it with historic. So if I do this, yeah, Wikipedia can give you the tables. So in Power BI, you know how I showed you how to connect to different sources. If you're connecting to data on the web, again, you can come here, do get data, and then you can do web, right? Here you will do web, and then I will ask you, what is your link, right? If you copy the link and then you put it in here and you do okay, it's going to go through that website and it's going to find every table in that website for you. And then when it comes here, you'll be able to see all the different tables you have on that page, right? So you can have all the different tables you have, the finals, who won, who lost, the location, all of that, attendance. And then based on this, you can do some transformations. If whatever you have is not already in here, you can do the transformations in here and just use it to build that. Right? So yeah, this is just Wikipedia and do the Power BI connection as a web. Right? This video that I'm showing you, I am posting it live on YouTube. So let me see if YouTube has already generated the link. I think it has. So let me put that link in here for you guys as well. This is the link. If you go there, you'll be able to see the video. It's on live right now. So yeah, thank you guys for joining today. I hope that you've learned something. At least you can be able to start playing with Power BI if you choose to. Like I said, this is my contact details if you want to take a screenshot. That's our website link if you want to join our class and learn more. The class, what we do hands-on projects. We do at least 3 projects in the class. We have one that we're going to learn with in the class. I have one that I give as assignments so that whatever we learn in the class, you can go back and practice with it. And then we have one that we set up for a final project. So by the time you're done, you have 3 projects. And on top of that, I'll also introduce you guys to how you can build a portfolio for yourself. So your portfolio should look something like this. I should have a portfolio on here, but I do have a lot of things open. So let me go in here and open my resume, and then I can show you what my portfolio looks like. Because if you go out there looking for a job and you have a portfolio website, normally it helps you a lot. So this is my personal portfolio website. And on my portfolio website, I have some of these projects in here, right? I have, this is the project management one that I've built. I have one of these that we built this in class from scratch, right? We have the product and the financial analysis. We have customer analysis, which customers are coming back and which customers are not. And then we have employee analysis to do our employee retention rate, right? So, and this is the World Cup one. This is a population one that I built because I was bored. And this is a Tableau one that I built too. I have more that I need to put on here, but I'll show you guys how to build a portfolio website like this and put that on your resume. And I also give resume points that you can capture on your resume to get a job, you know, if you choose to. We do have a separate mentorship program that focuses on that. We run that every Saturday where we do the career training. But for this game, I'll add that as Power BI for anyone who joins. So at least you're not just learning the skills alone, but you have something to take with you. So yeah, thank you for being here today. I don't want to take any more of your time. So somebody said, what about mentorship after joining the Power BI class? Do you assist with internships to work on projects? So we don't have internships set up. The opportunity we provide now is the real world projects that we give to students. As part of the mentorship, we let students decide on the domains they want to work in. If you want to work in healthcare, you know, retail, whatever you want to work, and we are setting up groups for these domains, and then we will assign big projects for students to work on these projects as a group. So by the time you're done, you will have the project that you can also put on your portfolio to go out there and present to employers, right? But we do assist with the resume building, interview coaching, and everything as part of our mentorship. So yeah. You're welcome. So if you decide to let me know, if not, I hope you've learned something from me today. And thank you for showing up today and spending 2 hours with me. I enjoyed teaching, so I'm glad you stayed here. And I hope that you got something that you can take with you. I'll see you on the next time I host this again. Have a good night, everybody. I don't see any chats here. I don't see any hands up, so I can go ahead and end this.